And welcome everybody to another glorious episode of the Put On Raiders podcast. I'm your host Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Um, Listen, this is a quick reaction show. Very this is why when I do this, I just do it off the cuff, like minimal notes, just an actual, just off the top of the dome, what's going on with the Raiders here. And I know there's a lot of plays in these games. I know there's a lot of there's a drop interception. There's actually they had a couple drop interceptions, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if the guys who are on defense could catch the football, they'd be playing offense. They don't blitz as much as we want them to do sometimes, especially when they're backed up and they only need a field goal. Like, I don't want to see you like play coverage until they get until they get to the field to in field goal range, Ryan, and then try to get aggressive. This is about an 8-year run of kind of like not producing touchdowns. Tyler Heineke produced more touchdowns today than his $23-24 million counterpart, Derek Carr. And that's the real difference in this game.
Yeah, it's offensive production. It's been the same thing going on 2 months now. It's third down conversions. The Raiders are dead last in the league since Gruden resigned. It's somewhere around 25 or 26%.
Where were they before?
You're just not going to be able to
resigned?
move the football. They still weren't very good. I don't have that number off the top of my head, but they're dead last since he resigned. And overall for the season, I think they're 29th or 30th. So they're just better than Chicago, Detroit, and Seattle this week.
And Ryan, I have a question for you. On average, how is Derek and his offense being hit with a lot of 3rd and 17s, 3rd and 22s?
No, not at all.
Thank you.
Going into last week. I had charted it, and their average since Gruden resigned was like 5.3, 5.4 yards on third down. It's a third and medium. That's exactly what they're trying to get into by running on first down, the 2nd and 10 runs. But a lot of things went wrong today. They just didn't make the plays when they needed to offensively. It's another slow start at home. I don't know why they can't start at home. They just haven't done it all year. For some reason, they like to get behind. The offense comes out, as Josh Jacobs said, with no juice. And at some point, we're going to have to start talking about the leadership in that locker room again, like we've done every year for 3 straight years. When they go into these tailspins, someone in that locker room needs to hold these players accountable, and it's just not happening. I don't know if that's the players on the field. Clearly, there needs to be, it should start at the quarterback, the middle linebacker, Yannick Ngakoue, the defensive ends, Max Crosby. Guys need to hold these other players accountable. It's just not happening. There's no excuse for a team to go out and just continually to lay eggs at home. It's unacceptable. And if they can't win at home, they're never going to be a playoff team. We can talk about this as long as we want. But and then when you got a chance to go for the throat, you get the ball, you can go down and score a touchdown. They end up getting a field goal. And we get in the red zone, and it's 1st and 10 runs, 2nd and 10 screen, 3rd down, just miss Zay Jones in the end zone. When you gave the ball back to Washington, with a little over 2 minutes left, you knew they were getting field goal range. So the defense, like you said, it was a lot of soft coverage. It took 3 plays for them to go right down there. The defense had been on the field a lot. But 26, as much as Raider fans want to go back to 2016 and talk about, the 12-4 season, the defense closed a lot of those games with turnovers late at the end of possessions after Derek had gone down and got a score. And you just can't count on that. And this defense right now is we're seeing kind of what happened in Los Angeles. Early on, there was a lot of results, and now we're kind of at the, they're getting off the field enough. They're holding teams down, but they're just not making those game-changing plays. They're not getting turnovers at the crucial moments. And I think the Raiders have 5 or 6 interceptions this year, which is, I think, dead last in the league, or at the bottom 2 or 3. So, the sacks production has kind of fallen off here. They were, middle of the pack to top 10 early. And I think right now going into today, they were in the 20s as far as overall sacks. I think they have 25. And, the Raiders are starting to get hit a little bit at the linebacker position with injuries. They had to play a lot of snaps between Mark Lee, KJ Wright, and Devon Diablo today after Littleton and Perryman got nicked out. So a lot of factors are coming in, and teams, they know where the Raiders are, what they're going to run on third down. They know where to target guys. And week after week, Brandon Faison has had struggles where he's given up touchdowns and had penalties. And then Trayvon Merrick, at the end of the game, you got to make that play. I mean, he had to throw him right to him. It would have been a pick six, would have been a game winner, and he just flat out dropped it.
Yeah, you almost feel like if he was playing on another team, that's an easy pick six, right? I mean, just the silver and blackness of his uniform, it's something like that. I just still, and I get it. Like, I mean, I get the defensive part of it, and I know what Gus Bradley is going to be. I wish he would just throw in a couple of more blitzes. Definitely, I think that everybody wants to worry about Abram in coverage. I would like to see Abram be utilized on third down as a guy who can go get at least a guy like Heineke, go get the quarterback. Like that skill is something that him being a blitzer who can get home, that would be nice as well. But I just feel like, again, I think the only team I think what DeBoer had that stat about scoring under 620 points or something like that. And the only team that
the Raiders are 22-15, and Derek Carr's 8 years when the defense gives up 20 or less, which is by far the worst in the league. I think it's 59%. League average is over 70.
And I do believe something else where like they're only the only Houston has scored more than only the Texans have had more games than the Raiders scoring under 20 points or something like that. Like so I mean I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know how you can't, and I want to say, Versace is like kind of talked about Carr today, like, wasn't like he was the golden child. Like he actually had, real criticism for him. But I mean, when he goes into the press conference and says, "I'm not going to throw blind to
Jackson
to Deshaun Jackson," but the way you're throwing the ball now, you're still turning the ball over. Like you're still not producing touchdowns. Like he threw a ball to Foster Moreau with three people around him. Like those three shirts should have brought you back over to the progression where you have Zay Jones streaking up the sideline by himself on a football field in the red zone. Like, I mean, by himself. Like, I mean, those plays have to be completed. I mean, you cannot excuse, like there's some guys who just produce touchdowns. And he's just, I hate to say it, like he's not one of them.
Yeah, outside of the 2016 season where I think he had 28, he hasn't thrown an abundance of touchdowns in any other season. And right now he has 17 through 12 games. The game plan early was very perplexing. A lot of stuff at or behind the line of scrimmage. On the play you're talking about, Jackson was wide open. He ended up checking it down to Jacobs, who broke a tackle and was able to pick up a little bit of yards. But he had all day on there. The protection was fine on that play. He was hurt a little bit, but overall the protection today was fine. At the end of the day, like it wasn't a ton of pressure. He was running for his life, but it's Renfro, and usually it's Waller or Renfro and then straight to the backs. And today it was kind of the same. And, I'd like to see Zay Jones fight a little bit more and track the ball down the field a little bit better. Brian Edwards is the 50-50 physical jump ball guy. They didn't give him any of those today. It was to Zay Jones. The play at the end of the game where, a lot of people are asking for pass interference. I don't think that was pass interference. You can't call that at that point. It's basically just a Hail Mary shot. But Zay Jones, turn one way, turn the other, had a trouble picking up the ball. And then it hit him right in the shoulder. So he didn't even get his hands up.
I gotta say, the play call was actually a pretty smart one because they're playing it like they're playing by that defense. They look like they were playing it for them trying to get a field goal. So they tried to sneak a play behind them. My only problem was, why not give that to Brian Edwards? Why not give that to Renfro? Why not give that to Jackson? Who, if Jackson is, I'm telling you right now, when you go to the marginal player in that moment, he's not going to get that call. But maybe if you go to Jackson, he probably gets that call. He might actually get the call in that moment. And you know what he might actually do? Because
he might sell it.
He might sell it, and he might also catch the ball. Because the ball that was one of the best. I mean, that was one of the best. I mean, that's the problem with him. And it's it's tough to deal with when we're talking about Derek, is that like he will have you, he will always have 4 or 5 throws in the game where you say, damn, why can't I see that all the time? But then he also has the rush to check down that he wants to check it down so quickly that it's just like, let something develop down the field, and he has time. Like, yeah, I've been in a lot of Raider spaces, after the game is over. That's how I might have a little glass and then, listen to listen to everybody kind of talk about the Raiders. And we're all in that same spot. Like we all feel that like emptiness, like, oh my, another losing season, another 500 season. But I mean, you can't, as much as you want to say, this and that, like a wide open receiver, you can talk about, oh, he doesn't have, this receiver, that receiver, doesn't have Justin Jefferson, doesn't have Thielen, doesn't have all these guys, say what you want. Like at the end of the day, like a wide open receiver is a wide open receiver. His job is to find a wide open receiver. And sometimes they're not even wide open. You got to force it to him. But like those plays got to be made. And he's not making those plays. And if he is, he's making it half the time. And we need at least 60 or 70% of the time, because it's just not enough for a team to go to the playoffs. And his team, again, I have issues. Like we both have, like we have high standards for this defensive unit and his offensive unit. And I get the criticisms of Bradley's defense. But at the end of the day, points for and points against are the most important things. And you're at home and you give up 17 points. That should be enough. Like you can't go a whole half and not play football on offense.
No, and I think at halftime, Derek Carr was 15 and 19 for 80 yards, and Josh Jacobs had 6 catches for 12 yards. Like,
okay.
I get the high completion percentage, but the problem with this offense, and for the listeners that have been following us all season, is, when you watch the tape, it's literally, they look for the home run, deep shot, or check down. There is no intermediate passing. There is no inside breaking routes. There's no slants. There's no, in cuts. It's clear out so Hunter Renfrow or Waller can work one-on-one, or I'll check it down. And, when those guys are missing, when Waller's not on the field, like you got to mix it up. Like I don't know, are they not installing plays during the week? Can we not just install, a double slant to the backside and just try to hit, Jones or Jones or Edwards on a slant? Like, I would love to play DB against the Raiders wide receivers, because they're just running vertically. You just got to run with them. They're not doing anything else. And, teams have caught on to that, and they've kind of, tried to take those away, and then they rallied to the checkdowns. And I thought the offensive line, the Raiders didn't try to run the ball early, which, against the 4th ranked defense is probably a good idea. But at the same time, there wasn't a ton of play action early, and there wasn't a ton of, try to get the ball in that 8 to 10 yard range that we keep talking about. It's just been non-existent. So they can't convert third downs. And then when they get into third and short, it's like pulling teeth. It's tough to explain, but when you get into 3rd and 4s and you can't consistently pick them up, there's problems everywhere, and it's not one person or the other. And you put Marcus Mariota in, you get a first down on a 3rd and 1, you leave him in, and you let him run a seam route, and you hit Foster Moreau wide open, and they didn't use him the rest of the game. Really, I was in the middle of, the start of the 3rd quarter, or was it late in the 2nd quarter?
Yeah.
But leave him in. Like
leave him in the whole drive. He can run
vertical routes as well as the outside receiver.
Let him. What's the rush to get him off the field? What was the rush?
I mean, the defense clearly, didn't know what was going on. And if you saw him run, like, he was moving pretty good on that route. But, they're not going to throw him the ball there. But I would like to see, a little bit more creativity. And at this point, it is what it is. They're 6-6. The playoff hopes are flickering at this point. If they go into Kansas City, and Kansas City put a whoop down on Denver, it looks like tonight. I didn't see much of that game.
And Kansas
Denver had 3 points.
Kansas City's defense in their building has been, I mean, they gave up 9 points, and they gave up how many points tonight to the Chiefs? I didn't even, was it?
There were 3 last time I checked. Yeah, they're the second best defense in the league over the last 5 or 6 weeks.
They've been playing. I mean, this is not the Kansas City we're used to by any means, by any stretch of the imagination, but they're getting it done. I mean, they're finding ways to win games that you shouldn't. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you score 19 points at home against the Cowboys, you shouldn't win that game, but they did. And they found a way. Like, last week, the Ravens, 4 INTs by their quarterback. They found a way to win. So, I mean, you got to be like, this team it's been like, perplexing as far as what they want to do offensively. And I know they're going to say, hey, John's not here anymore. They were dealt a bad blow by not having Ruggs because Ruggs is coming into his own, all the stuff like that. At the end of the day, a wide open receiver is a wide open receiver. I don't care who the receiver is. And you gotta make those plays. And to make an excuse about I'm not throwing blind, like if you can just shift your hips, shift your shoulders, and look to see if somebody's there or not. I mean, I get the point of what he's saying. I'm not asking him to go no look pass a la Patrick Mahomes. I mean, here's the frustrating thing about the Raiders, and I'll let you after this part of it. It's like the fan base is so desperate. They have lowered their standards where they're not even talking about Super Bowl. They would have been just happy just to have week 7, play the number 2 seed, lose by 10 points, and just to say, oh my gosh, we finally made the playoffs.
No, you're not wrong. And I mean, to me, the play in question you're talking about is Jackson is running to the same side of the field, but Carr is looking on the check down to Jacob. So that play is clearly designed to get the ball down the field. Maybe there was another vertical route behind it. I'll have to see the all-22 to figure out what the concept was. But there was no rush to dump it down. He had plenty of time there. And we talked about it last week. I thought the run game would be a little bit better because I thought they were going to go more to the outside, the tosses, the pen and pull.
Yeah.
Get Jacobs outside away from those defensive tackles. It was the same inside zone, standard stuff they've been running, pull a guard for power. It's the same 2 or 3 runs they've been running all season. So teams are turning on the film. The Raiders doing exactly what they want them to do, and these teams can scheme them up. So the game plans to me have been very lackluster. The game management by Rich Bisaccia has been very lackluster. There's no aggressiveness. There's no lack of urgency. It's I love kicking field goals.
They play so slow.
Turn the Chargers game on today, and in the first drive, they drive right down the field against the Bengals. They get to the 5-yard line. It's 4th and goal from the 5, and they said, screw it. And they threw a touchdown on 4th down. It's like the Raiders would have kicked the field goal there 100 out of 100 times. They're not kicking it. They're not being aggressive. And I love AJ Cole. He's got a great leg, but at some point I'd like to see the offense stay on the field a little bit more on 4th down, especially when they're struggling to score points. And, the defense, I would have loved for them to get an interception. I would have loved for Merrick to get that ball. But
for him, because we like him and he's having a good year, it would have been good. It would have been good.
But it's who's going to make that play? Who on this team wants it bad enough? And I just don't see it. I think guys are just, kind of at that point where they're like, yeah, we're 6-6. We're tied for last place in the division, or, Kansas City is pulling away, and you just don't see the sense of urgency in that building to win. And then you hear the head coach talking about, and I get the process versus results. It's all about the process. Don't focus on the results. When he starts saying, I don't want to look at the scoreboard or, whatever he said after the game, I had to double take and read that quote and be like, did he really just say that? Like, the point is to outscore your opponent. That's the point of playing professional football. And we've talked about it, and it's something that I've brought up is he waited his whole life for this opportunity and he pissed it away. And that's what pisses me off. Like, you go in there and you have a chance of a lifetime to take over a team with some talent, not great talent, some talent. And he pissed it away. Like, Rich Bisaccia will not be the coach of this team next year, and he has no one to blame but himself.
You know what the problem is with that? And like the problem, you're not, what you're saying is you're not lying about that. And I think part of this is these coaches have a great life. And I'm not saying they don't put in a lot of work, but they make too much damn money. Because why you wouldn't go balls to the wall for this position to keep it, where you have an owner. There's some owners who wouldn't even entertain you, even if you went to the AFC Championship game. They would say, "No, I'm not keeping you as my head coach." You have an opportunity to keep that job. It's a great job. You get to live in a state where you get to keep a lot of money. I live in a state where they take a lot of money.
Me too.
We live in the same state. So
13%.
Yeah, they take it on paper. You know what I'm saying? So like, you don't have an opportunity. You have opportunity. You have all the opportunities in the world where you could do that, and you're just gonna let it go. No anxious. No. Like, there is, time. Even the timeout at the end. It's like you should be right next to the referee going timeout immediately. Like, you know what I mean? Why are we wasting precious moments in this game where you can't do it? And people are going to blame whoever they want to blame. I mean, I would say what you want. I mean, keep car, trade car, whatever, whatever. You can say whatever you want. The job of the quarterback is to produce a boatload of touchdowns. At least give you. Ben Roethlisberger is playing with a cane in the pocket, and they scored 20 points today. Mike Tomlin
against the Ravens.
Mike Tomlin knows that this team he has right now is nowhere near his Super Bowl teams, and he knows that he has no shot of winning the AFC. Deep down, if you put him, if you seen the movie Get Out and you had him in that chair, and you could go back and forth with him, he would tell you the truth that I have no shot to do it. But look at the results; they're still in it. That's where you need to be as an organization, where your bad years are still years where you contend for that last playoff spot. And who knows? Rodgers might end up in Pittsburgh. That's a good spot for him.
Or Russell Wilson might end up in Pittsburgh. I can see that too.
I guess I can see. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean we're a loss next week against Kansas City if that happens to being in mock draft season. So the Raiders' backs are against the wall. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. They have to win 4 of the last 5 to get in, and they've got some challenges coming. They had a golden opportunity, but they lost to Chicago, the Giants, and now the Washington football team. Now they got to go on the road to Kansas City, and they got to go to Cleveland, and then they got to play the Colts and the Broncos and the Chargers. And I love the Raiders. Don't get me wrong. I don't see any way they win 4 out of those 5 games with the way this offense is played. They've had, in all 6 of their losses, they have not broken 16 points. So for me to think that they can go into all 5 of those games and put up 27 to 31 points and win 4 of those 5, I just don't see it at this point.
I don't see it either. I don't see it either. And I just looking at like you're supposed to be this, just look at he's making so much money, and he's gonna come asking for more. Like he's gonna come asking for more. So I mean, I don't know. If I'm Seattle, I'm saying, dude, like, hey, I can get you a quarterback, and you give it your quarterback, and let's just call it a day. Like at least, I mean, that's the one deal. That's the one saving grace where you can say to yourself, if you call up, who's the GM? Schneider. What's the GM's name?
John Schneider.
John Schneider. Where you can say, hey, how many situations where I can give you a quarterback? I don't know. He might not like Derek Carr, but I mean, hey, in that division, who knows? Whatever. You beating Kyler Murray anyway, but it's just, I don't know. I'm at a loss right now because I knew this result was happening because of the how do you not perform in the first quarter every single week at home?
I don't know. And something I thought about today after the game is, and I have a Twitter poll out on my Twitter page, Our Home 22. A lot of people think Mark Davis is just going to dive into the pockets and go get a big name coach, but we don't know what the financial terms of that settlement are with John Gruden. Is he paying John Gruden, a half of what he owed him? Do they owe him $30 or $40 million at this point? Is Mark Davis really going to dig into his pockets and pay a coach $10 million a year to bring in a big name? Is he going to?
Would you need to?
Yeah.
So sorry. I'm sorry. I cut you off. I got a quick thought. I didn't want to forget it. Do you think that $10 million would be like if they did do what we want them to do and go get McClay and get Kellen Moore? Kellen Moore, how much money would first year head coach would he be making? Like 7?
Today's market? No, I'd probably closer to 4 or 5.
4 or 5. Okay.
Probably on a 4-year deal. So,
okay.
Your retread, guy that's had some success is probably in the 7, and then obviously, the hot names on the market are going to command upwards of $10 million. And a lot of Dabo Sweeney hype because he was at the game today. He was probably on a recruiting trip in Vegas and just happened to come by the stadium. But the way these college coaches are getting paid, Dabo Sweeney's not making Clemson. They'll write him a check for $100 million. But yeah, let's just say the Raiders, go that route. You know, a lot of people think they're going to get this, the hot up and coming. If Mike Tomlin gets let go, like Mike Tomlin, I just don't
He's not
see.
going anywhere. Why?
I,
Why is Mike
I,
Tomlin going somewhere? Oh
and
my
even if he
god!
was available, I just don't think Mark Davis at this point is going to pay John Gruden, and then whatever staff members have contracts, if you let them go, who knows what the defensive staff has contract wise because they're all new, and then turn around and pay Tomlin $12 million a year. I just don't see it. So they're probably going to go the young, inexperienced route would be my guess. With a new GM would also be my guess at this point. To me, I just don't see how you can bring Mayock back at this point. It was playoffs or bust, and clearly the playoffs are on life support right now. And then you start looking at the Derek Carr question that you brought up earlier. To me, I wouldn't extend him at this point. It was playoffs or bust, played out. And then next year they run into an issue though. If you play it out next year, and a new coach comes in and wants to keep him around, then you're going to be paying him $35-40 million if he has success next year, or he's a free agent, so he doesn't have trade value. You're going to have to franchise him. So either way, they're going to have to make the decision this offseason. If you play it out next year, you're basically screwed. But I think this year in the offseason, if they wanted to make a change, and they'll evaluate every position, I'm not saying do it or don't do it at this point. It's going to be based on who's available. But if they're going to trade him, they could get assets this year. And does a new coach and a new GM want to start fresh? If you trade Derek Carr, you're probably not getting the hot candidates because they're probably going to want to come in and coach him. No. But at the same time, this team and this roster, in my opinion, is not a serious playoff contender. They're just not. And so, I mean, if Denver is able to land a quarterback in the offseason, if they can get Watson or Rodgers, it's over. Like the Raiders are going to be predicted by everyone to finish last, and those 6 games are going to be brutal. Against the Chargers, the Broncos, if they get one of those guys. Not saying they can't compete, but, I mean, the fact is they're probably not going to win 10, 11, 12 games if those are your 6 division games. So the Raiders are in a really tough spot. Mark Davis has to put something on the field that's competitive, or else the opposing fans are going to overtake that stadium, because the TSO holders can make a boatload of money right now selling tickets to opposing fans, and they're in a really tough spot. Mark Davis has a lot of decisions to make.
That's why Carr's back.
Yeah, I mean, that would, if they can get a coach that wants to coach him, but now you're going to have to pay him market value, because if you bring him back, let's say they bring him back and they don't have success in year 1, he's a free agent, you're not re-signing him. And if you bring him back and they have success, you got to pay him a boatload of money or franchise him before you can trade him. But I'm probably leaning, as much as it pains me to say this, if you can go out and get an established coach to probably run it back and take the risk. Because if he does play well and gets you to the playoffs next year or gets you close to it, then you make your decision. You can pay him and bring him back, or you can decide to franchise and then move him. Because even if you franchise him, someone's going to trade for him. But
if you franchise him, it's 40 million or like 30, 35,
35. North of 35. But now you have to factor in Lamar Jackson's contract extension and all the other quarterbacks.
Big time,
who knows what Baker Mayfield's going to get? Josh Allen already got paid, but yeah, it's going to go up. It's only going up. But at some point, is it worth it? Is it worth it to pay him $35 million? At this point, I would say no, but we'll see what happens. But the playoffs this year pretty much look like they're out of the equation.
Yeah, and the problem is, Go ahead.
I was going to say, to me, it's not, well, they have to find someone better. No, they don't. They just have to find someone. If you could find someone that could get you as a stopgap and for half as much, and you can build up the roster around them. But none of this matters unless the Raiders hit on a GM that can actually make successful draft picks. Because if you can't do that, it doesn't matter who else is on this roster.
Last question I have, because this is so. Thank God Lincoln Riley with USC. Thank God. Thank you, Jesus. Marcel Reese, okay, and Marcel Reese, and I am terrified, and I guess I don't. This is not even nothing anti Marcel Reese at all. What do you feel like his role is going to be like? Because he's in the ear, he has the owner's ear. He's in the box with him, sitting next to him every single day. It's not as if he went to like up through the ranks of of how to run a team or anything like that. Do you think possibly like he would be a guy who would take over for Mayock or become the team president or something like that, because the Raiders like to keep everything in house, which means they like to keep it cheap. What are your thoughts about that possibility?
Yeah, Marcel Reese should be nowhere near making personnel decisions for the Raiders. He is a buddy of Mark Davis. They go to Hooters, they go to PF Chang's, they ride around in the Dodge minivan or whatever Mark Davis is rocking these days. But yeah, Marcel Reese definitely has some influence there from all the reports we've seen. My concern is where does Mark Davis turn at this point for advice? Is he going back to Ron Wolf and John Madden and Marcel Reese? Like, clearly he knows owners in the league, and I'm sure there's going to be owners that are going to be calling him with suggestions, but who is the sounding board for him at this point to make this decision? And let's hope, like he does, he listens to some other people outside the organization. And I get a lot of the, Elliott Wolf, bring in Elliott Wolf, because people just want to say that because they know the name because of Ron Wolf. Ron Wolf hasn't been relevant 15 or 20 years, let's be honest. And Elliott Wolf got bounced from Cleveland pretty quickly, and he's now a consultant in New England. I would stay away from anyone with Raider ties. That's just my person. They need to go outside the family, hire someone from a successful organization, whether that's, Buffalo recently, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, even Dallas. Go to an organization that's had success in all phases of football, off the field, on the field,
player development.
Yeah, player development, but most importantly, hitting on draft picks. Who have been the best teams at hitting on draft picks? Hire one of those guys and find out what the process is. We see it in other sports. It happens in baseball all the time. Like everyone, if you work for Tampa Bay, you're probably a GM somewhere for somebody at this point.
Exactly.
Or the Dodgers now, or if you're in Dodgers player development. But I don't know why that doesn't happen more in football, but it doesn't. But
because it's the homeboy shopping network. That's why.
At this point, Marcel Reese can have lunch all he wants with Mark Davis, but he should be nowhere near making a decision on who's going to be taking over here. And, I'm hopefully we put the Joe Brady stuff to rest. I've talked to you about it. I was never on board with Joe Brady. He hadn't done anything that impressed me in the NFL for 2 years, and he got let go today. And people are still sending me messages, Joe Brady. And it's like, why? Go look at he had 1 year at LSU, but go look at who he had. He had Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Joe Burrow, Terrence Marshall. Like, they had plenty of talent. He's clearly proven in the NFL. Granted, he got handed Sam Darnold and Teddy Bridgewater, not exactly great quarterbacks, but they had one of the worst offenses in the league for 2 years.
Yeah.
So he needs to go back to college or go catch on somewhere else as a quarterback coach and rebuild his resume. But hopefully we put those Joe Brady rumors to rest for Raider Nation.
No question about it. The Raiders are the Raiders. That's the problem. That's the problem. What's Tom Walsh up to these days? Is the bed and breakfast offense available? Hey, listen, you get a first round. When is Bryce Young available again in the draft?
2 years.
2 years. 2 years. Hey, well, let's make it happen. Make it happen. Good boy. All right. We'll see you later in the week. Ryan, this is our quick reaction to the Raiders loss, 17-15. 17-15 to the Washington football team. All right. See you next time. I don't know how to end this one.
Yeah, I don't even know how to end it either. It's like, the season's over, but
no, seriously.
Hey, give me till Wednesday. I'll figure out some positive stuff from the film breakdown, and hopefully they can put a much better effort on the field come Sunday in Arrowhead.
If Greg Olson is on Twitter, maybe you can send those suggestions right to him. All right, Ryan. We'll see you later in the week, brother.
Take care.